excited to be doing this here badass art battle video where myself and my opponent will be making art style videos based off of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Who is my opponent? My opponent is BadIsRAD2, who creates these wonderful videos. You should go and check out her channel. She has a very theatrical style. I love theatrical style! She also is great with her After Effects, and she uses them to the hills. Let's go check out my opponent. Whoosh.
Does somebody summon me? Alright, enough monkeying around, right? Let's get to business.
I couldn't agree more, BadIsRAD2. Let us get down to business. Before I begin, why don't you subscribe to my channel if you like videos about art and books and painting and writing and all of that kind of fun stuff. Subscribe, hit that bell so that you get new notifications every time a new episode drops. Maybe like this video, maybe make a comment in the comment section. We'll have a conversation. It will be lovely. Let us begin my art video of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I didn't get art lessons until way later in life. So my original kind of art style came from comic books, and I understood in comic books, you start with pencil, then you ink, and then you color. So that's what I do. I pencil, and then I ink it heavily, then I erase all the pencil, and then I color that bad boy. So that's how I like to begin my videos. One day I might do like show you my pencil process, but it's really aggravating and you just hear me cussing a lot while I'm erasing a lot. So let's just start from here, shall we? So when I was painting this, I wanted very badly to make it as accurate as I could possibly make it to the creature described in the book itself. And one of the things that is constantly brought up is its yellowish tint to its skin. It's kind of a sickly tint, you know, but he always mentions it as yellowish. But one of the other things that was quite striking was when the creature is first animated, when he first comes to life. Victor Frankenstein describes his eye opening, his yellow eye opening. And that yellow eye was very haunting when I read it the first time. And it actually continues to be haunting. Anytime he mentions the creature's yellow eye, I'm just like, oh, wow, cool. I'm surprised at how much that affects me. So what I wanted to do was really highlight the yellow eye of the creature. So when you look at your color wheel, the yellow, its complementary color is purple. So what I really wanted to do was make sure that there was a lot of purple in the painting as well, so to help sort of balance or harmonize with the yellow of the skin and the yellow of the eye. But I want the purple to be deep and broody. I don't want it to be so much of a violet purple, which kind of turns out looking kind of pinkish. I wanted to go more of an indigo. So I laid down the violet purple, and then I was going to drop some blue on top of it to make it a deeper indigo, which you will see later here in the painting. So let's talk a little bit about Mary Shelley. She was born to a father who was an author, and her mother was also an author. Her father was more of a political kind of philosopher, and her mom was a women's rights activist. And they both had publications, but her mom passed away very shortly after Mary Shelley was born. Her life is just kind of thematically imbued with a lot of philosophy and politics and death and suicide. She lost one of her kids to her and Percy Shelley's first kid died just a few months after the child was born. Percy Shelley himself died by drowning. He was on a boat that was like, people said that it wasn't really seaworthy, and then some people just said he was just a terrible sailor. But he ended up washing ashore after being lost to sea for several weeks. And so death and suicide. Percy Shelley's first wife, who he was married to when he hooked up with Mary Shelley, she committed suicide. And then soon after that, Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley were married. So there's a lot of darkness in her background. And a lot of that kind of stuff you see in the themes of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Another cool thing that I learned is that there were two versions of Frankenstein. There's the 1818 version that Mary Shelley published anonymously, and then there was one later in 1831 that I think she added a preface that kind of changed or embellished a bit on the origins of the story. And then she changed a few other little details, like I think Elizabeth ends up being his adopted sister instead of his cousin, because in the 1818 she was his cousin. And then there were a couple of other minor things. From what I understand, the 1818 version is more punk rock, and the 1831 version is more, mature, or whatever that means. Oh, needs it. But I don't think I've ever read the 1818. I need to read that. So I think the next time I read this book, I'm going to make sure I'm reading the 1818 version. So this book is told in epistolary style. That is, that it's told in like a series of letters, very much like how Dracula was and the Werewolf of Paris. This is pretty common style of writing. But it is about this cat. His name is Captain Robert Walton, and he's sending these letters to his sister Margaret, and he's talking about his encounters. He's currently in the Arctic. His ship is stuck in the ice, and that's when he encounters this large roaring shadow on the ice. And then he encounters a man with some sled dogs who is slowly dying, and that guy is Victor Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein goes into his boat and starts explaining to him, you know, this horrible chain of events that have gone on. So it's all like Walton sending letters to his sister. So there are 3 POVs in the book itself: Captain Walton, Victor Frankenstein, and the creature. 2 of them just managed to never make a decent decision at all, but then Robert Walton ends up making a decent decision at the end. And I think this kind of goes back to some of the pieces of literature that are influential to this story. A lot of folks say that Milton's Paradise Lost, and that's an obvious one because it's quoted a lot in the actual book itself. You know, a lot of like, did I ask you to make me, O creator? You have responsibilities now that you've created me, kind of a thing, right? And that thematically is very much in the book. And also, a lot of analysts say that Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner is in there. You know, guy making bad decision, now everybody suffers for my bad decision, kind of a theme. But I would say that Dante's Inferno is like super heavily. In fact, there's a lot. In many ways, this is like almost like a retelling, as far as I'm concerned. You've got this creature who is like immune to cold. He's super resistant to cold, and it starts in this Arctic shelf, right? And in Dante's Inferno, the lowest level of hell is this frozen lake, where Satan himself is like half trapped in a frozen lake, right? He beats his wings, and all these, you know, frosty, cold winds blow across hell. And what I'm seeing here is like Walton is Dante, Victor Frankenstein is Virgil, and Satan is the creature. And it's all kind of there, right? You have Virgil, who is guiding Dante throughout this hell, this landscape of sin. And you see all the sins represented throughout Frankenstein. Anyway, I like the way that it turned out in this iteration. So I did make a digital copy, and for posterity's sake, and for when I want to make prints. But when I look at it, I still see a little too much pink. So I'm gonna have to juice it up some more. Bring on the juice! Bring on the juice! So anyway, I move into using a lot of crayons. I love using crayons in my artwork because I think it adds a slightly richer tone into the colors. As you can see here, I'm adding some red to the fire. Fire is something that in like Frankenstein lore, people just always associate Frankenstein as hating fire. And he does have like a moment where he burns himself when he first discovers fire, but there's not like, it's not like a weakness of his. Well, there are two moments of fire in the actual story that I can remember anyway. And there's one where he's out in the woods and he encounters fire from an old camp and he warms himself and he tries to maintain it for as long as he can, right? And the second moment is when he burns down a cottage. And I'm not going to get into that too deeply because I don't want to ruin the story. You can see now that I'm adding the blue on top of all of that, which is totally getting rid of the tree that I kind of, you know, improv'd into the thing itself. I do that a lot, actually. I love just randomly painting trees. So as videos keep coming, you'll probably notice that trees are a pretty dominant thing in my art subject matter. But you can see how the blue is making it deeper, the darker tones, and it's you know, I'm putting it on the creature and everything seems to be a little darker, a little heavier, and I like it like that. Another really cool story about Frankenstein is the origins of how the story came about, and that was when Percy Shelley and Mary Shelley, I don't think they were married at the time, they went to Switzerland by invite of Lord Byron. Lord Byron was there with his lover, who I believe was Mary Shelley's like half-sister, and then John Polidori was also there. The summer was particularly cold and rainy and dreary, so everybody was indoors. And while they were kind of like stuck indoors, they sat around and talked about politics and read old ghost stories. So what they ended up doing was creating this kind of contest as to who could write the best or coolest ghost story. And in that time, Mary Shelley created Frankenstein as part of this contest. There are several cool themes that are running through this book. There's that kind of nature versus nurture, how like Victor Frankenstein abandons his child basically, and how not nurturing that child created a monster. But I would say like one of the most predominant themes in the whole thing is like, who is the real monster? Like, why not both? Because I think they're both monsters in their own regard. You know, Victor Frankenstein is a superficial douchebag. He creates this creature, and he even says in the story that he wanted it to be beautiful, and upon its animation it becomes hideous. And on that and that alone, he completely ignores it. He cold shoulders it. He abandons it, right? And it's only because it is just so hideous to look at. He's such an asshole. Oh, you're too ugly. I'm not going to even engage you. When that engagement might have created a creature that was much more harmonious with humankind, and it wasn't. And it's largely because he's a superficial douche. And he's such a coward. There's so many moments where he kind of acts like he's so powerless with what's going on, but he's not. He has choices. He just makes choices that are like the path of least resistance for him. And then when it comes to the monster himself, he goes from like, I want to be a creature of light, I want to be a good person, I want to be loved. You know, he spies on this family and understands the concept of togetherness and love. And he's smart enough to like learn how to read, and from just like witnessing these people. He finds a little pack of books I can't remember all of them, but one of them was Milton's Paradise Lost, which he reads and he understands, right? He's smart enough to understand that, but he's not smart enough to understand that he has choices that aren't murder when it comes to his revenge. What a douche! And now I'm adding the yellow highlights to the creature. I've had so much blue, and originally I wasn't going to do it, but then when I realized like the blue was so heavy, I think I needed to add more yellow to really kind of give it a little bit more harmony. And you know, then I added the fire kind of in an impromptu way as well. I feel like the moment that's being depicted here is the moment where he's in the woods and he discovers the fire and he tries to maintain it. He continues to feed it and make it, you know, to warm him during the winter months that he spends alone in the woods. And then maybe he just hears a weird noise off to the side and turns his head, and that's you, the viewer of this piece, is a strange noise that Frankenstein heard in the woods while he was warming himself next to a fire. So then at the very end, I like to come in with a pen and make sure that certain details haven't been washed away by watercolor. So I go in and I hit the eyes and the nose and the teeth, and make sure that it's still really sharp so that when you look at it, you can see it. And now that big yellow eye is popping really, really hard amongst all of that indigo. Yeah, exactly what I wanted to do at the beginning. Everything else was just gravy. Take that! Take that! Take that, BadIsRAD! Yeah! Yeah! BadIsRAD2, check that out! Yeah! That's awesome, right? I can't wait to see what you produce. It's gonna be so good. So yeah, BadIsRAD2, thank you so much for doing this with me. Bam! This is mine. That's right. Uppercut with this really badass art piece. You're gonna knock me the hell out with your art piece. Bring it on down. Bring the horrors down. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed making it. And thank you, BadIsRAD2. The punch is in your corner. I can't wait to see your video. I'm really excited to see it, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Maybe we should do another one sometime. That would be great. Rock and roll. I'll see you guys later. Ciao.